Hello everyone, my name is Eve-Marie Leblanc. I'm 18 years old and I'm from the language program. So today for my research project, I decided to talk about the Hotel Rwanda movie. So first of all, I will start by doing a little summary. So the movie deals with fact that really happened in 1994. The Hutus killed the Hutu represented, and before this tragic event, they were supposed to sign a peace contract. After that, the Hutus represented really encouraged his fellow to kill every single Tutsis. In the movie, a man named Paul decided to make the promise to protect his family and every refugees that wanted to go to his hotel. It was a very honorious gesture of his. At the end, we learned that he has saved more than 1,200 innocents that were doomed to a certain death. So that is very, very good. And also, at the end, the ONU came to save people, but the problem with that is that they saved the white people first and they left the black children and even the black women behind. My initial research question was what was the form of racism into the Hotel Rwanda's movie, because it really shocked me when I saw that the black people were left behind at the end, that they were not saved at the same time that the white people. So that's why I wanted to talk about racism in my research question. But finally, I've decided to take another research question, which is what impact did colonialism had on the Rwanda's genocide? I will do a little background of the genocide. So between 1870 and 1900, the European imperialist aggression, diplomatic pressure, military invasions, and eventually colonization led to a lot of things. But mostly, the European went to Africa for three major things, and it was economic, political, and social. This has led to the separation of the Tutsis and the Hutus, and this led also to a big economic difference. After that, the Hutus were a lot more than the Tutsis, and they won the first election that took place in 1961. After that, a lot of violence took place in Rwanda, and this became a feature of post-independence Rwandan. After that, for the history, when the Belgian colonists arrived, they really wanted to take a direct control on what was the existing political system in Rwanda at the time. After that, I think it is very important to point out differences between Hutus and Tutsis because it's the history, and I think that people really want to know about it. So the Tutsis were more tall and more narrow-featured, but the major difference between the two was colonialism, because at first the Tutsis' identity and origins were erroneous, and that's what led them to have a different identity than the Hutus. Also, when the Europeans first arrived in the Rwanda's country, they had a very racist ideology, and that is what led to the idea of having a superior race that are the Hutu. As it is for today, the President Kagame really tried to change the country for the best by doing a rapid economic growth, and he really tried to put Rwanda into a technological hub, but it was really difficult for him. Also, I've learned very interesting facts, like today, talking about the genocide in Rwanda is a very sensitive subject, and it is illegal to abort ethnicity. And I think that it's good like that. Also, a fact that I think that is very important to point out is that the British colonialism still have a big role in the tragedies that are happening now in Africa. My research goal, so like I've said, my research goal was to find what was the role of colonialism into the Rwanda's genocide. And for that, I used a variety of sources like news articles, books. I also used the dialectical research method, the application of critical theory, and finally, I used the socio-historical approach. So now for the methodology. For the dialectical research method, I started to learn a lot about the subject, and I was very interested about it. So I thought in my head about formulating a research question that I was interested in, and for me it was colonialism, and because that's the main reason of why the genocide happened. And after that, I did more and more research to find the truth about it. Also, for the application of critical theory, first of all, I tried to identify inequalities that were occurring in this movie, and I tried to figure out ways to fix it. For this movie, what really shocked me was racism, and like I've said, it's all because of colonialism, that the genocide took part, and that there were a lot of racism in this movie. So I really tried to search and find information to solve this big problem. Finally, for the socio-historical approach, the historical effect, I tried to analyze the work more and more, and because it was in a different period than mine, so it was very interesting. It was new information for me because, like I've said, the genocide happened in 1994, and colonialism is very historical. So it was new information. It was very interesting. As it is for social effect, like I've said, colonization made the identities of the Hutus and the Tutsis, but most importantly, it made the augmentation of crime, violence, and also of race inequality. Now I will tell you the results of my research project. So the stage 1 is the history of colonialism. It took part in 1300. It's when the Tutsis first migrated to Rwanda. It was inhabited, there was no Twa, there was no Hutus. After that, in 1858, there were a British explorer named Ailing Speke who first visited the area. Finally, in 1946, there were a guy named Rwanda Hurundi who tried to very rude the Tutsi kings, and this led to the UN, who became a trust territory governed by Belgium. The stage 2 is the independence of Rwanda. So in 1957, Hutus had big issues. They really wanted to have more control. They wanted to change the Rwanda's power structure. They wanted to be heard. They wanted voices. For do that, they did political parties, and it worked. Because in 1962, Rwanda became independent, and the Hutu named Gregor Kayibanda became president, and this very shocked the Tutsis, and they left the country, and 20,000 of them were killed by the rebels of Burundi. Now for the stage 3, it's of course the genocide. In 1993, the president Abiyarimana really wanted to sign a power sharing contract in the town of Arusha, and this led to the end of the civil war, and also the UN new mission was to do a peace agreement. But unfortunately, in 1994, Abiyarimana and the Burundian president were killed, and at the same time a plane crashed. And like you all know, this was very when the genocide first began, there were a lot of massacre of the Tutsis. 8,000 of them were killed. And at the end of that, the Hutus militias fled to there, and they brought with them approximately 2 million Hutus refugees. Finally, for the discussion, I want to do like a big summary of what I've said. Like I've said in my presentation, racism is very big issue in this movie, and colonialism is too, because it has led to the characterization of the Hutus and the Tutsis. And also when the Europeans first arrived, like I've said, they had a big racist ideology, which led to the idea of having a superior race that are the Hutu. And what I want to point out that I think that is very important is that in today's society, we still have racist ideology, mostly for old people in our society. They still have racist ideology, and I really think that it's sad. Also, At the time when the Europeans first arrived, their intention were all about themselves. They were all doing things for personal power, personal profits, and it's still a little like this today. I have a good example for you with someone that everyone knows, with Donald Trump in 2020. He still have a big racist ideology, and also everything he do is not for other people, it's not for the good of everyone, it's for him, it's for personal power and personal profits. And I think that it's very sad that it's like this in 2020. But the good news is that I think that my generation, the young people, we have a very less racist ideology because of education. I think that all the credit goes to education, and I think that we're on a good way, and that with the time it will go better. Finally, in conclusion, with my presentation about the Rwanda's genocide, I just want to point out that colonialism had a big impact, and that is what led to the classification between race. And it also have a big impact today, mostly in Africa, because they will always remember this big event, but also everywhere in the world knows about this big genocide, and it won't go away fast like that. I think that we will always remember that terrible genocide that happened in Rwanda in 1994. Now, to finish in a good way my presentation, I want to present to you a quote that I really found interesting, that is from Kofi Annan. It says, "A genocide begins with the killing of one man, not for what he has done, but because of who he is." Thank you.